Womanjeka, everyone. Womanjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people. And in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present, future, and any elders that were here today. And I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks, and the Wandins. And I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Mooloolah Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah, the crow, is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Wominjeka everyone, Wominjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future, and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover, Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Moolalic Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, They would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragaeta, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Welcome everyone to the first council meeting of the year on the 28th of January 2026, which I now declare open at 6:33 p.m. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public who have joined us tonight, as well as those watching online. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will also be available on our website, so attendees in the gallery are advised that your presence may be recorded. I also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent mode during the meeting. A reminder as well to the public in the gallery that as per Governance Rule 75.1, personal video and audio recordings are not allowed. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to their spirits, ancestors, community members and elders past, present and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. As part of our Council's commitment to reconciliation and treaty, I will now say our acknowledgement to country in Woiwurrung language. Wanganu Nagu Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Gulan Naganun Tuan Bik Wenawap Moonee Valley Dauri Wangananu Gaguk Nangjit Bambuth Ban Yalimbu Nanjit Nungu Nayan Tabuk Gaguk Nanjit Bay Nagwaran Yuong Gulin Magali Yalimbu. We now move to item 2 on the agenda, apologies and leave of absence. I note that an apology has been received from Councillor Sypek, who is unable to attend tonight's meeting. Also, I note that Councillor Theocharides is joining us online tonight, and please just let us know if you have any technical problems, Councillor Theocharides. We don't have any requests for a leave of absence tonight. We're now at item 3 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 9th of December 2025 be confirmed? Someone like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Cosgriff. And seconder? Councillor Phil Byrne. So moved Councillor Cosgriff, seconded Councillor Phil Byrne. Councillor Cosgriff, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? In which case I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the foreshadowing of conflicts of interest. Does any councillor wish to flag a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda this evening? No, thank you. The next item on the agenda is presentations. Councillors, we do have a number of presentations tonight, as there's been a bit of time passed between our last meeting and this evening. I'm going to start with a rather sad presentation, which is to reflect on the passing of Yvonne Kernan just after Christmas on Boxing Day. So it's with much sadness that Moonee Valley City Council pays tribute to former Citizen of the Year Yvonne Kernan, who passed on the 26th of December 2025. Yvonne was recognised in 2013 for her significant contribution to our local community, particularly Ascot Vale. She was a driving force behind the Ascot Vale Residents Action Group and volunteered on several council committees and as a workshop participant for many years. Yvonne helped to shape local neighbourhoods by lending her clear and community-focused insights to critical planning matters and policy development. In the late 1980s, she was an early member of the Essendon Legal Service Committee, and she returned to the organisation when it was renamed Moonee Valley Community Legal Service as a board member. Yvonne was later honoured for her years of service and granted life membership. She was also a member of the Essendon Historical Society and involved in the Royal Agricultural Society of Victoria. Yvonne is remembered by her many friends as a prescient and determined force for good in the world, advocating tirelessly for the rights of others with her strong sense of social justice and belief in community life. She has made an impact and will be greatly missed. We extend our condolences to all those who knew Yvonne, especially her family and her friends. The second presentation this evening is also a sad one. It's to recognise that on Thursday the 22nd of January we came together as a community to honour the victims and all those impacted by the Bondi Beach terrorist attack on our National Day of Mourning. Moonee Valley City Council invited our community to show support and condolences by signing a memorial book at the Civic Centre or by sharing messages through digital channels. And I remind residents that the memorial book that's here in front of me remains available to sign until the close of business tomorrow, Thursday the 29th of January, just in our reception area at the Civic Centre, and you're very welcome to come and sign that. As a mark of respect and solidarity, our flags were flown at half-mast and the Clock Tower Centre was illuminated as a visible symbol of unity with those affected. In line with a request from Bondi's Chabad community, this memorial was guided by the theme Light Will Win, a gathering of unity and remembrance. Local governments across Australia also enacted visible and symbolic tributes, sharing in grief and reinforcing the importance of compassion and goodwill. I'd like to thank all of those who have signed the condolence book and also those who joined with us on the 21st of December for a small candle lighting vigil in Queen's Park. Out of this unbearably tragic event, we unite as a community. Peoples of all faiths and backgrounds come together to acknowledge both the deep suffering experienced and the hope and solidarity that connects us. At this point, I'll ask if any other councillors would like to make a presentation. Councillor Cosgriff.
Thank you. On Monday, Moonee Valley City Council welcomed 158 of our newest citizens to the council area from nearly 20 different countries at our annual 26th of January citizenship ceremony at the Clock Tower. Many of us councillors were in attendance, and it was certainly the biggest ceremony I had been at. And we had special guests, Wurundjeri man Colin Hunter Jr. provide a welcome to country, the federal member for Maribyrnong Joe Brisky, the Deputy Premier of Victoria Ben Carroll, and very excitingly, I better get this right, Assistant Minister for Citizenship, Customs and Multicultural Affairs, the Honourable Julian Hill, come and join us at the ceremony. The event was really warmly received, and it was a lovely start to the day with lots of excited new citizens. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cosgriff. Would any other councillor like to make a presentation this evening? Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of brief presentations I'd like to make, if that's okay. The first one is I'd like to acknowledge two Moonee Valley residents who were recognised as part of the 2026 Australia Day Honours. As a council, we'd like to congratulate Mr Ralph Blair of Essendon, who was awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia for service to the baking industry, and also Miss Susan Rainey of Moonee Ponds, who received the Medal of the Order of Australia for service to squash. On behalf of Council, we extend our sincere congratulations and thanks for their significant contributions to our community. On the Australia Day Awards, I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Cook Lamb, our fellow councillor from Maribyrnong, who was also ordered a Medal of the Order of Australia. A second presentation, if I may. Council was lucky enough to receive a certificate of appreciation from the St Demetrios parish in Moonee Ponds. So on the 26th of October last year, Greek Fest was held at the parish. It was a bit wet, but despite the wet weather conditions, it was a successful event that brought together the community from a vibrant celebration of Greek culture. There were a number of volunteers, parishioners, stallholders and visitors. There were some really enjoyable cultural performances, children activities and a wide range of food offering on the day. And we'd like to acknowledge the parish for their efforts in putting on the event and thank them for giving a certificate.
Thanks so much, Councillor Jones, and congratulations to those awarded on the in the Australia Day Awards. Would any other councillors like to make a presentation? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to do a presentation on the budget and events that on Monday. The annual ceremony took place on Monday at 5:30 at Woodlands Park. Sorry, Mayor, just had the microphone off. The annual ceremony took place on Monday, 5:30 at Woodlands Park. The attendees experienced a welcome to country by Wurundjeri Woiwurrung elder Uncle Andrew Gardner, a smoking ceremony performed by Wurundjeri man Daniel Ross, a keynote address from Auntie Jill Gallagher speaking to the enduring resilience of First Peoples, a Yiddikia performance by Gangagiri and live music by a Piritu band, adding a deeply personal and reflective artistic component. The ceremony was a peaceful and reflective gathering focused on truth-telling, listening and acknowledging the impacts of colonisation. Thanks to the officers for organising a terrific event. I also wish to thank those who were staffing the sunflower tent, which was well utilised, and it's great to see this initiative at council events. Also want to acknowledge the warmth and kindness that is shown to the Moonee Valley community by the Wurundjeri elders and the other Aboriginal leaders and elders present on for them and what many Aboriginal people feel is a day of mourning and a day to honour their resilience, strength and survival. I acknowledge the wonderful invitation that we have to listen, learn and create a shared future together. To me, Auntie Jill Gallagher's words struck a chord around history and truth-telling as not being about blame for injustices of the past. However, we are all responsible for the future we create. To sit down, to listen, to reflect with the very first Australians on the 26th of January does not mean you don't like Australia, does not mean you're disrespecting people who have contributed to modern Australia. It does not mean that you are disrespectful of servicemen and women who have defended our freedoms and values, or that you don't appreciate the fact that we live in the best country in the world. Far from it. It means you're committed to a better Australia, a fairer Australia and a kinder Australia. And as we hear, if we close the terrible gap between white and black Australia and improve things for first Australians, we're improving things for all Australians. Thank you to all the community members who came along for this very important event. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Phil Byrne. Are there any other councillors who'd like to make presentations? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. On a sad note, I would like to acknowledge the very, very sad passing of Jake Crawford. Jake was a past player of the Airport West Football Club and also served as the President and Secretary for the club. I know that many around this table met him through his wonderful advocacy, and I'd like to take note of what he did for the lights in the area and the scoreboard and what we'll see later tonight on the agenda, the public toilets in the area and the Edsel Street sports field upgrades. He really was a beautiful person, and I will greatly miss his passion, his smile and his cheeky jokes that came across with everything that he did. I'd like to pass on my sincere sympathies to his brothers Matt, Trent and Josh, and his parents John, Pauline and Mark, and the wider Crawford family as well as the Eagle family. Thoughts with them all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Did you have any other presentations?
I do. Thank you. On a much lighter note, I would like to acknowledge that on the 11th of December, we were lucky enough, after an extraordinary long time and a lot of work from our wonderful officers, were able to open the Fairburn Park Pavilion, which a lot of people more commonly known as the new netball and tennis pavilion. We were there with Danny Pearson, the local member for Essendon, who has been a wonderful advocate in this space for many years, as well as the president, as the committee members and presidents, so you might have to correct me on this, Mayor, Rose and Andrew of the Ascot Vale Tennis Club, as well as the Edna president, Fiona Marr. Many councillors were there. This project was one that had been talked about for a long time, and was one that unfortunately was impacted by the Maribyrnong floods, but after considerable time we finally got there and finally got to cut the ribbon. It really was a joyous day, and a pavilion that will be used by many, many people for a long time. I think it's a good time to reflect how far female sport has come in this city. It's whilst it's definitely not dedicated just to females, because there are growing numbers of male participants in netball, and obviously tennis has a fairly even split. To have dedicated change rooms, a canteen facility, and a space that they can call home and store their flags, store their memorabilia is something really special, and something that the netball community and tennis, this particular tennis community, haven't had for ever. So it was a really good opening, and something that as a council we should be incredibly proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne, and I echo those words. It was a terrific occasion opening the Fairbairn South Pavilion after all of that time. I'm just going to finish with two final presentations. I'd like to firstly acknowledge and thank Mamith Bedi for gifting the libraries of Moonee Valley a copy of his recently published book, Where the Mustard Fields Meet the Southern Cross. And this gorgeous little book reflects on themes of migration, identity and belonging, and shares a personal journey between cultures and the experience of building a new life while honouring one's roots. And I sincerely thank Mamith for his thoughtful gift for our libraries. I would also just like to finish up by thanking all of the wonderful volunteers and staff who helped bring our Mayoral Christmas Brunch, held on the 25th of December 2025 at the Jering Flemington Hub, to life. It was a truly wonderful and successful event, bringing our community together in a spirit of connection and care. Thank you so much to Councillor Jones, Councillor Adams and Councillor Phil Byrne for attending the event as well, who worked alongside our dedicated volunteers, and also our CEO Helen Swee was there with her family as well, so thank you so much for attending. The invaluable contribution of our external partner organisations who helped clients to attend and to fully participate in this meaningful occasion is truly appreciated and recognised. And also a shout out to Abby Shepherd, who cut the hair for free of 16 guests on the day. So that was a lovely Christmas treat for people. We in total welcomed 130 attendees. We shared many gifts with children, many of those donated by staff of the council. So thank you to all staff who donated gifts. And the event was heartwarming reminder of the holiday's true meaning and the kindness, generosity and community spirit that defines Moonee Valley. So it's nice to end on a positive presentation after some sad ones this evening. So our next item on the agenda is petitions and joint letters. And councillors, I believe we have one petition to be tabled this evening. And that is 6.1, petition... would any councillor like to... It's 6.1 petition, parking at Miliara Gardens Kindergarten. This petition relates to a matter in the Miliara ward. As the ward councillor, Councillor Sypek, is an apology from tonight's meeting. Is there another councillor who wishes to table the petition? And I apologise for not reading my notes in full beforehand to know quite what I was saying. But is there another councillor who would like to table the petition? Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. In the absence of Councillor Sypek, who did ring me yesterday and brief me fully on this petition, and he wanted me to present the following. A petition containing 75 signatures has been received regarding the proposed redevelopment of the Miliara Gardens Kindergarten into a 99 Place facility on Park Drive, Keilor East. The petition raises concerns that the proposal does not include provision for off-street parking. While staggered start times have been referenced, residents are concerned that the increased demand for on-street parking may adversely affect access to driveways, local traffic flow, visitor access, and overall road safety. The petition notes that existing permit parking arrangements were designed to support a smaller 33-place centre and cites Lincolnville Kindergarten as a comparable example with significant traffic impacts. The petition therefore requests that Council consider the inclusion of off-street parking as part of the proposed redevelopment. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. In accordance with Governance Rule 62.5, I refer the petition to the CEO for consideration. Councillors, do we have any other petitions or joint letters? In which case, that brings us to public question time, and I note that we've received 6 public questions this evening. The first 2 questions are from Ray Birch, who is not joining us this evening, so I'll read the questions on behalf of Ray. Question 1, could the CEO please outline what the member for Murnong Ward achieved in regards to stormwater advocacy in 2025? Thank you, Ray, for your question. It's not appropriate that the CEO be asked to address the performance or advocacy of an individual councillor. Under the governance rules, the Chair does have the discretion to answer or disallow questions for a range of reasons, and it is more appropriate that questions be put regarding the council as a whole rather than questions about a specific councillor. As the Chair of the meeting, and given that this question relates to my ward, Murnong Ward, I will respond to the question on this occasion. Throughout 2025, the issue of stormwater in Moonee Ponds has been raised with me, and I've responded to inquiries through emails, phone calls, social media and a hand-delivered newsletter. I've followed council processes to inquire about the progress of the Stewart Street design and surrounding drainage works, which is ongoing. Importantly, I moved an amendment to the draft budget last year that requested council increase borrowings to $7 million to potentially allow for new projects and contingencies associated with drainage works in areas susceptible to flooding, as identified by any modelling released, and for other intergenerational projects. I ensured our council plan was amended to add the words "and flooding" to one of the strategic objectives, and for one of the strategies to achieve Green Woonwarren to read, use flood modelling to mitigate the impacts of climate change on drainage networks through potential planning changes and capital works delivery. And that a Year 1 initiative for a city that is climate safe was added to read, work with Maribyrnong City Council, Emergency Services and Melbourne Water on community preparedness initiatives, and support Melbourne Water and stakeholders on the Maribyrnong River catchment flood mitigation study. In November 2025, along with Councillors Adams, Barnes, Councillor Phil Byrne, Councillor Cosgriff, Councillor Jones and Councillor Theocharides, I supported the allocation of $4 million to the 24-25 rates funding surplus to the newly created Asset Management Reserve for Climate Change, and $6.2 million to the Infrastructure Reserve. Ray's second question reads, my question relates to the ongoing Riverview saga and the complexities of Melbourne Water understanding the dire needs for water pipe replacement in Murnong Ward. Stewart Street has had a mains leak ongoing since November. Crews have attended 3 times with no noticeable improvement. It's still leaking daily. Other mains pipes have also burst over the summer months. Melbourne Water crew staff talk about the fragile state of our 100-year-old metal pipes not meant to handle the huge amount of urban infill currently occurring. Murnong Ward needs a strong advocate for underground infrastructure renewal. In light of the varied stakeholders and competing priorities for limited budgets, we need a strong advocate. What goals for water advocacy does the member for Murnong have in the year 2026? Thank you again, Ray, for your question. To clarify for the community, mains water, i.e. drinkable water from the tap, is a separate service to stormwater management. The issues experienced previously at Riverview did not relate to the management of the water mains service. Notwithstanding, as you have identified, the issues experienced recently in Stewart Street and surrounds do relate to mains water service. Management and renewal of these assets is the joint responsibility of Greater Western Water and Melbourne Water. You are correct that Council plays an important role in advocating to these jurisdictions on behalf of our community as a whole. Council does this by regularly engaging with these organisations, including its participation with the M9 group of inner city councils. Despite our advocacy, the Council has no jurisdiction to influence decisions regarding asset planning, maintenance and renewal of the mains water assets. These remain decisions for those authorities to take while balancing competing needs and priorities. We will continue this advocacy. The next two questions are from Jason Bryant. Thank you for your questions, Jason. In accordance with Section 61.7 of the Council's governance rules, I will paraphrase Jason's questions for clarity before providing a response. With our question 1, with our recent National Day of celebration for our country, why did Council conduct a healing ceremony rather than assist ratepayers with celebrating our National Day, Australia Day? The federal government determines that Australia Day is the 26th of January. Each year, the Moonee Valley City Council hosts 2 important events on this day. At the Clock Tower Centre in Moonee Ponds, we welcomed our newest community members at our citizenship ceremony. We are proud to support and celebrate our community as these people take such an important and significant step in their lives by becoming Australian citizens. We also hold Bunjil's Maroon, a healing ceremony, which means Bunjil's Cry. This event provides a respectful space to acknowledge and reflect upon the pain and ongoing impacts experienced by First Nations people. This event reflects our Council's commitment to reconciliation and is guided by the principles of our NV 2040 strategy. Under the strategic direction of FAIR, one of our core objectives is to ensure Moonee Valley is a city that respects and values First Peoples, their knowledge, history and culture. At the healing ceremony on Monday, several speakers, including myself, explained why we hold this ceremony on the 26th of January, and I've placed my explanation on social media channels to invite you to listen to this to provide further details. It is important to understand that while not everyone may agree with the approach the Council takes, that the development of MV 2040 and its underlying principles were shaped through broad and extensive community consultation. Moonee Valley holds a ceremony to invite all members of our community to reflect on how celebrating this day as a national day overlooks historical facts about First Nations peoples. It overlooks the profoundly harmful impacts of colonisation on the First Nations peoples of Australia, impacts that continue. Those who attended the ceremony on Monday were moved by Auntie Jill Gallagher's encouragement to not feel guilty about the past, but to feel responsible for the future. We hold this ceremony to connect all people in reconciliation and hope for a socially just future. Jason's next question reads, does the Council understand that a healing ceremony that is to acknowledge the trauma to our Aboriginal community may be seen as disrespectful to the servicemen and women who gave their lives to give us freedom and security? Council honours the contribution and sacrifice the response I'm reading now. Council honours the contribution and sacrifice of service members throughout the year through events such as Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, and we invite our community to join us on those occasions. The last 2 questions are from Mark Swindon, who is joining us this evening. Mark, would you like to ask your first pre-submitted question?
Yes. My first question is, what are the plans going forward for the Council to broadly consult with the Moonee Valley City Council community in a formal context regarding future Australia Day celebrations within the Council area and budget?
Thank you for the question, Mark. There was wide community engagement and support for the Reconciliation Action Plan that the Council developed and adopted. This plan is now due for renewal. So subsequently, Council has committed through our Council plan to the development of a First Peoples Self-Determination Plan in the 2026 to 27 financial year. This process will again provide an opportunity for widespread community consultation. Mark, would you like to ask your second pre-submitted question?
Is that the totality of your answer?
Mark, would you like to ask your second pre-submitted question, please?
Second question. How does the Council quantitatively evaluate the value of the healing ceremony, given the community consultation is now a 3 to 4 year old exercise?
Thank you for your question, Mark. Bunjil's Maroon Healing Ceremony reinforces Council's ongoing commitment to reconciliation, and it receives strong community engagement. Testament to this was the participation at this year's event in exceedingly hot weather. The event drew an even greater crowd than at our citizenship ceremony in the morning. The event is an opportunity for community members, including our new citizens, to learn about what the day means to our traditional custodians, and included an acknowledgement of history by our Wurundjeri Woiwurrung elder. The words spoken by the elders conveyed the value of the ceremony for our First Peoples and was warmly received by our non-Indigenous community. Council is confident that the ceremony is valued by the community. The huge turnout in very hot weather on Monday and the positive comments received following the event are strong evidence of the value of the value of the ceremony to the Moonee Valley community. Thank you, Mark.
You have not answered either of my questions.
Thank you for being here this evening. It's appreciated. The next item on the agenda is report from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports as delegates? If not, we move to item 9, reports. If councillors might just excuse me for 1 second after all of that talking, I'm just going to take a sip of drink before we move to the next item. So the first report is item 9.1, endorsement of the draft 4-year Capital Works Program 2026 to 27 to 2029 to 30 for community engagement. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Well, I can't distinguish between the two of you. I might just confer with governance to see if they happen to have any opinion. Governance has advised me that Councillor Samantha Byrne's hand went up first. So, Councillor Samantha Byrne, would you like to read your? Would you like to move a motion?
Thank you. I will, Mayor. I would like to move that Council resolves to 1. Endorse the Draft Capital Works Program 2026 to 20/27 to 2029/30, Attachment 1 for community engagement, and to assist in informing the preparation of the draft 2026/27 budget with the following amendments, notes and requests for further information to Council. A, note the intention of Council to allocate funding from the Infrastructure Reserve to fund active transport actions, including those arising from the Integrated Transport Strategy, which is currently under development, and projects related to climate resilience and mitigating impacts of climate change, including drainage improvements. B, add Queen's Park Pool improvements, Canning Reserve Pavilion and AJ Davis Reserve Pavilion to the list of projects being considered for future development but dependent on external funding on page 10 of Attachment 1, and note that Council is continuing to advocate for external funding for projects. C, for the purpose of consistency, oversight and accountability, continue the practice of including the planning and feasibility funding in the Capital Works Program. D, note Council's intention to fund actions arising from the Play and Recreation Strategy and the Streetscaping Program currently under development as Council Plan annual initiatives, and request further information from the CEO about funding options such as existing reserves, bracketed, for investment into open space without master plan streetscapes, open space with existing master plans, bracket, including for Cliff Allison Reserve, Montgomery Park and FJ Davies Reserve, close bracket, and planning for waterways corridors. And E, request further information from the CEO with respect to the specific projects in the tennis facilities program. 2, invite submissions in accordance with Council's community engagement policy from 2nd of February until 5 p.m 2nd of March 2026. 3, hear any submissions received on the draft Capital Works program 2026 to /27 to 2029/30 on Thursday the 19th of March 2026 commencing at 6 p.m. Allow for amendments to the Mayor's introduction and minor editing, open bracket, non-material, close bracket, changes to the draft Capital Works program 2026/27-2029/30 prior to it being released for public inspection. I think the dates are as read. If I got a bit, there's lots of dashes and lines and stuff, but hopefully it's as per the screen.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Councillor Samantha Byrne. Governance, did you have any queries about what was read? No, neither did I. It's fine, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Jones. Thank you. Councillor Samantha Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
I would, thank you, Mayor. I'm actually quite excited about this motion. This is something that we haven't done in this way on this council, and it is something really different and hopefully is received well from the community. I'm aware that hopefully by doing our Capital Works program over a 4-year program, it might give our community a little bit of understanding or a bit more of future understanding in terms of what they can expect. So what this is, it is a draft 4-year Capital Works program. So as a lot of people would know, Council is required to prepare and adopt a budget by 30th of June 2026, which is for 1 year. However, this is a 4-year, I suppose, plan and outlook that the community can have a look and provide feedback on the dates that I referenced earlier. There are, to put this together, there was a lot of work that was done by Helen and your team over many days, many weekends, many after-hours sessions, and I thank you and your team for that work. We came up, the officers then put forward a recommendation, and within that recommendation, obviously there are some things that people like and there might be some things that not everyone necessarily agrees with, but on balance it is the officer's recommendation. Following that, there's been discussions led for amendments, which are always really tricky when they come. I suppose it adds the councillor's flavour to motions, which we do for different motions, and that is, for those who can see the screen, either the stuff that's in yellow or what was read out under point 1. Speaking very quickly, I'm mindful of time, but a little bit locally, where did I lost my notes? Sorry. In Steel Creek Ward, which is the ward that I represent, really excited to see things like public toilets, the Etzel sports field upgrade, the Airport West Kinder and McNamara Avenue streetscape to be put in there. Obviously, this is just a draft and looking forward to the public consultation on it. I'd like to acknowledge that Councillor Sypek isn't here. I'm sure that if he was here, he would have mentioned the Rosehill Park shared paths, the Lincolnville and Miliara Gardens Kinder, the Overland Reserve lights and the J.H. Allen public toilets. I strongly recommend all, hopefully, not everyone in the municipality, but hopefully a lot of people can have a look at what is in the this wonderful document and provide their feedback. The other part that I would like to acknowledge is that on page 10, I believe, of the attachment of the document, it does have I need to get back to page 10, a list of projects which are being considered for future development, and this list is projects which would like to progress over the next 10 years. However, these projects are dependent on council receiving external funding support to enable these projects. These projects include the indoor sports stadium, which is a high ball, Buckley Park's bowls redevelopment, Windy Hill upgrade, Boeing Reserve Community and Sports Facility Hub, Airport West Tennis Pavilion, the Soccer Hub, the Nidri Community Hub, also known as the Nidri Library, and as put forward in the amendment, the 3 projects being Queen's Park Pool Improvements, Canning Reserve Pavilion and AJ Davis Reserve Pavilion. We know that it is tough to fund these very big, exciting projects, and we are looking, hopefully, for some partners going forward to complete them. Very exciting time for Moonee Valley. Thank you again for everyone who has helped get this to this point in time, and we look forward to seeing what the community has to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to second the motion as moved by Councillor Samantha Byrne. I think this is one of the most important reports that, obviously, as councillors, we receive each year, the capital works budget and the considerations that go into that, because it shapes the things that get built, the things that get fixed, and unfortunately, sometimes the things that have to get deferred as we make decisions for the community going forward into the future. It's a draft program for community engagement. I think that's the important thing. It's not necessarily final approval yet, but the total proposed investment currently is nearly $150 million, $148.8 million over the 4-year period. There's a strong focus on renewing assets, which I think is important. We've had some questions earlier about renewal of the pits, the pipes, the storm water management. These things are all important. We've got 23 million attached currently to renewing local roads and other local area traffic management. 6.11 million for pedestrian and walking path improvements and cycling paths, as well as another 5.46 for footpath replacements. Building renewals, 15.23 million. Pavilion upgrades, again, there's the one mentioned at Walter Street. Drainage improvement is a big one. It is $11.79 million, so it's not a cheap thing that we're putting forward out there in the community. But I think, as was sort of mentioned in the report, by putting this out early and separately, the capital works budget for feedback from the community in more detail than perhaps has been previously, I hope it gives the community a greater understanding of what some of this money is actually spent on, but also provides greater clarity for feedback going forward and where we can put the money. It also makes it clear some of our priorities for projects that we'd like to see, but we are relying on other levels of government and other funding sources to come to the party so we can deliver on them. I think earlier and more detailed community input is a positive shift. Obviously, we've got feedback on this budget report over the month of February, so next week and through till the 2nd of March. I'd encourage everyone to have a read and provide us their feedback, as well as the traditional input for feedback on the budget in June, as we have to get towards passing this budget by June 30th. I think it is worth mentioning that some of the projects are grant dependent. As much as we'd love to deliver them, we need to be clear about that, and I think that the fact that that's clearly delineated in the report is important. I will be supporting this motion from Councillor Samantha Byrne and looking forward to the community feedback as it comes in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hamish Jones. I'm just going to ask that we take a quick pause from the meeting just for 3 or 4 minutes. We'll resume at 7:20. It's just a question that needs to be answered. Thanks very much. We'll see you in 4 minutes. Apologies for that short adjournment. Just had to clarify some procedural matters. So we had just had a motion moved by Councillor Samantha Byrne, seconded by Councillor Hamish Jones, who had both spoken to the motion, and so I now ask if there's any other councillor who would like to speak to the motion. Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to the amendment.
The alternative,
the
an
alternative,
amendment to
yep.
the alternative. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. And that is at paragraph B of what is on the screen, to remove the words "and AJ Davis Reserve Pavilion." And I'll just wait for that to happen. And a new paragraph to be inserted after, immediately after B. And that paragraph to read, given the number of projects Council is currently trying to progress in point B above, reconsider the timing of planning for the community hub in Niddrie and refer this to discussions on the draft 2026-27 budget.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. For the sake of clarity of the motion, would you also consider putting with the word "and" between improvements and canning?
Of course.
Thank you for moving your amendment. Is there a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Theocharides. Thank you. Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to just thank Councillor Samantha Byrne's amendment. And as you can see from what I've just moved, really is just sort of a minor changes to what was put up. Also acknowledging the work of officers and colleagues around the table for their efforts through the many briefings and workshops as we get this into shape to the point where we can commence our engagement with the community. Thank you. There's been lots of hard work in working on last year's plan. Just noting that last year's plan was unaffordable by 16 million. And we've tried to fund what we can and respond as best as we can to community needs. I understand this is the first time that the 4-year capital works plan has gone out for public input. The draft plan provides an opportunity to highlight the financial situation of the council and the challenges we have in delivering for the needs of the community. While this goes out for community input, it should also note that a number of significant community inputs have already come into where we've got to tonight, and that was through the submissions through the budget process and council plan and so forth that were also considered where appropriate through the capital works program. So previous feedback has not been lost as well, which is good. The program proposes to invest 148.8 million over 4 years. I won't go through the detail of ward by ward projects. Councillor Jones and Councillor Byrne have provided a bit more of the detail on where that goes to. The amendment highlights the importance of having to fund and having funding to support the various strategies prepared under the council plan, including the integrated transport plan, the play and recreation streetscapes project, which is important that we've got funding to deliver that. To the amendment, given the number of projects, the limited council funds and the need for external funds, the amendment does seek further discussions during the draft 2026-27 budget to reconsider the timing of planning for the community hub in Niddrie. This project remains a commitment in a council plan, referring to 20.3, that sets out planning to commence in 26, 27 and in 2028, 29. So I feel it would be more transparent for the community that the timing of the planning may need to be reconsidered given the need for significant external funds and the required partnerships. Given a number of projects that external funding is required for and the competition for external funding, it's important that we time our advocacy as best as we can. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Philburn. Councillor Theocrides, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased to second the alternative motion that Councillor Phil has brought to the table, or to the chamber. Before speaking to the changes, I want to be clear that there's a lot in the substantive motion that I do support, which Councillor Samantha Byrne brought to originally to chamber. In particular, the continued inclusion of planning and feasibility funding, the recognition of the...
So, Councillor Theocrides, I might just remind councillors at this point to just speak to the amendment at this point. There will be an opportunity to speak to the substantive motion later.
Sure. So the alternative motion builds on the foundation that has been created, that Councillor Sam has created, with two targeted refinements that, in my view, improve consistency in governance. So the first is the exclusion, sorry. Oh, I just got sorry, I'm so sorry about this.
Take your time, Councillor Theocrides. Would you like me to pause the clock for a moment? It is always very difficult online. Perhaps we could just pause the clock, governance. I can hear that you've got some background things going on there for you. It's quite difficult.
Yes.
Take your time.
Sorry, thank you so much for that. Let me just mute.
Could we seek an adjournment, please? We can seek an adjournment for a couple of minutes. Let's resume at 7.
That would be great, thank you. It's quite tricky online.
It really is, and it's our first meeting back. So let's have a few minutes of adjournment. Let's try to be back at 7:33.
Thank you.
Again, apologies for the short break, just some teething issues for our first meeting back for the year. Councillor Councillor Phil Byrne had moved an amendment to the substantive motion, and Councillor Theocharides had seconded the amendment and has 1 minute 38 left on the clock in speaking to the amendment. Thanks, Councillor Theocharides.
Thanks, Mayor, for allowing me that time to collect my thoughts again. The alternative motion retains the strength of the substantive motion, but makes two targeted refinements that I believe improve accuracy, consistency and governance. The first is the removal of AJ Davis Reserve Pavilion from the list of projects being considered for future development and dependent on external funding. I support this change because that list serves a specific purpose. It's intended to identify projects that are genuinely contingent on external funding pathways, including projects that do not sit clearly in that category, risks blurring that distinction and creating confusion about delivery, responsibility and funding expectations. This refinement ensures the list remains precise and aligned with the way the capital program is structured. The second change is the removal of the clause relating to reconsidering the timing of planning for the community hub. The second change is including the reconsidering the timing for planning for the community hub in Nidri. And I support that because firstly, this is endorsing a draft capital works program for community engagement. Decisions about timing or sequences, I believe, are more appropriately considered through draft process.
Councillor Theocharides, your time has expired.
Can I have a further, is it 30 seconds?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. Informed by submissions of further officer advice rather than being preempted at this stage. Importantly, these changes do not expand the scope of the program, nor do they commit council to additional expenditure. What they do is tighten the logic of the motion, improve internal consistency and ensure that our decision-making framework remains clear, transparent and defensible. And for those reasons, I'm comfortable sending the alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Theocharides. And it is very difficult being online for your first meeting back, so we'll hope to see you in the chamber soon. Thank you for that. Do any other councillors wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Cosgriff.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this amendment to the alternative. When point C about the Nidri Library Hub, which is to me the main point about this amendment, was included in the original alternative that was circulated to all councillors. The reason for that, from my perspective, was that this report that we're putting out for consultation is about transparency with the community and about responsible financial management. The project that we've got listed in our next financial year for the Nidri Hub is $500,000 of planning and development money, but then we don't have any more money in the next 3 years of the program rather, because we know we can't afford it at this time, even with borrowings. And as Councillor Samantha Byrne mentioned, we've got this, I'll speak to this later, but in the draft there is a long list of projects which we desperately need to do, and this isn't to say that the Nidri Library doesn't need to be done, but a long list of projects we need external funding for. Given that we know that we won't have money in the next kind of 4 years to progress the Nidri Library Hub, really all that I was hoping of point C is that we consider moving the planning to year 2 or year 3 or year 4 of this, because I also think that the earlier you plan for something, I guess I'm concerned that should we plan in the next financial year for the Nidri Community Hub, in 4 years' time, when we'll get to do something, hopefully, or put more funds towards that, there's a greater scope for things to have changed. We will have had new trams roll out. It's along Keilor Road. The sites that around Keilor Road is where the current library is and where we were considering. There's just so much variable that it wasn't, it's not to remove Niddrie Library Hub at all. That needs to, Community Hub at all, that needs to happen. We know it and it's included in our document, along with all the other things that we really need to happen and really want to happen. I would just, I think it would be more fitting in the transparency that we're trying to aim for, and in kind of being financially responsible, that if we did the planning a bit further down the track, closer to when we might actually get to do the development, we're not introducing as much risk into it from my eyes, you know. So not to get rid of it, but just to not do it next year, because we won't be able to build it for many more years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgriff. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be supporting this amendment. I think that a significant amount of community consultation was done in 2024 related to the Niddrie Community Hub, including exploring options, and the overwhelming response to that was the need for an upgraded library and community hub, and there was a lot of community excitement at the time. I attended all three pop-ups at the time in my position as the then president of the Niddrie Traders Association, and there was strong community feedback at all of those events. The planning schemes with regards to activity centres have come into place. Development is going to happen in the area, and I think it's important that we progress the library sooner rather than later. Having said that, I do note that if this motion or amendment is successful, the point C does say reconsider, and I would hope that officers in reconsidering the timeline take on board that community feedback and the current state with planning, and continue moving forward and progressing with it anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I will. Can I ask for both parts of the amendment to be split when voted upon?
I'll have to give that consideration at the time.
Sure. Okay, well, I will speak to the amendment. First of all, I'll touch on what Councillor Cosgriff mentioned, which was that there was an alternative that was first circulated, which was a bit of a mismatch of what's up here at the moment. It included point C, but it also included AJ Davies Reserve. I then responded to that saying the removal of point C to all councillors, and then somehow in the further information pack, the removal of AJ Davis happened.
Councillor Samantha Byrne, I'd just like to remind you of information that's considered confidential and not information that's circulated in the further information pack is generally considered confidential.
Oh, apology. Okay, well, therefore the motion that's on the board then is not confidential, is that? The motion that is on the board, which due to our governance rules has to be submitted prior to noon of the day of the meeting, all of a sudden didn't include AJ Davies, and I do wonder if that's where some of the confusion around the table
Again, Councillor Samantha Byrne, I'd like to remind you that information that has been included in the further information pack is labelled confidential.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just talking about what's on the board as to what...
Comments were made about what was included in the further information pack at different times of different days.
Okay, apologies. I'll remove those comments. When speaking about what's on the board, AJ Davis is not on there, and the inclusion of point C is on there, and I think that there is some confusion from potentially why there's been why there has had to be adjournments because of that. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it did stump me as well. For AJ Davies to be removed, it's only adding it to a list. And if there is the soccer hub that is still on the list, so if that is the reasoning for that, Hopefully that's some understanding for the community. It is a pavilion that people have wanted for a long time. I believe it was a state government commitment 10 years ago for funding, or maybe a little bit longer. But yeah, so that was an addition, obviously, in what I put forward, but now removed. In terms of point C, I find this one a little bit wild because out of all...
I'd like to remind Councillor Samantha Byrne to maintain respect in the language used in the chamber. Thank you.
Okay. I'm surprised by point C, considering everyone works together on to get this together. The one thing which is an officer's recommendation, which I think is the crux of it here, the officer's recommendation is to not have point C. Point C, to delay the timing of the planning of the Niddrie Library. The officer's recommendation is to have it as is. This is a councillor recommendation, what councillors are voting on right now, and it sounds like the amendment is asking it to be delayed. Out of all things, libraries...
Time has expired.
Could I please have an extension, Mayor?
Of?
A minute?
A minute, that's fine.
Thank you. Out of all things to be delayed, a library which is probably, in all of our satisfaction surveys, it's one of our most popular things. It services all ages, it's free, it's loved. I love our libraries. I don't want to see delaying in planning towards a library which has been ongoing for many, many years. I don't see the need for point C. It doesn't need to be there. The officers have not recommended it, and I would ask councillors not to support this amendment and back our libraries. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Would anyone else like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I've lost my voice.
Fine. If you speak as close as you can to the microphone, we can hear you, Councillor Adams.
I will. Thank you. I will be supporting this amendment. The Niddrie Community Hub and AJ Davis hinge upon a number of factors to proceed and are also being considered with other projects that are dependent on council receiving external funding support to enable the projects to proceed. So I think it's prudent to properly think about or think through the realistic timing of planning for these. Some of the projects that we are considering for future development are the indoor highball stadium, Buckley Park Bowls redevelopment, Windy Hill upgrade, the Boeing Reserve Community and Sports Facility Hub, Airport West Tennis Pavilion, the Soccer Hub, which includes AJ Davis, Queen's Park Pool, Canning Reserve Pavilion, and also the Niddrie Community Hub as well. With regard to point 1C, we're not removing the Niddrie Community Hub project at all. All it is doing is referring it to our draft budget discussions so that we can think through the realistic timing of planning. Some of these big projects will require multiple funding sources, including borrowings, and our borrowing capacity and workload is limited. So there's still some work to do here, and I'm very happy to support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. We could hear you, be assured. Would any other councillor like to speak to the amendment? Councillor John Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be pretty short and sweet. I would like to think that something that we need built more than just what we've got on our screen here would be worth $1 now, but $5 in 2 or 3 years' time. It's not like petrol where it's $1.60 one day and $1.85 the next, and $2.50 then back down to $1.80, which I wish it could be because we could build off those markets. But unfortunately, I would like to see things move on quickly and get them built, but I know that's not the world we live in. But for our constituents, we want a bit of everything, and I know our financial people won't like what I've got to say, but I reckon it's time we just build stuff and make people happy. But I know I'm probably barking up the wrong tree, so that's my call on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Now, I think all councillors have spoken to the amendment and there was opposition expressed. So, Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to exercise a right of reply?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I think I really wanted to highlight that for me, the amendment is not for a second questioning need for the Niddrie Hub. It's in the council plan. The need is well established. We're not seeking to, reassess the need at all. We're just looking at when we start that planning, and really the amendment brings that closer to what we've already agreed to in the council plan. And considering that at budget time. In terms of AJ Davis Reserve Pavilion, the need there is clear when you look at it, but obviously it's part of other projects there, and I think I've got concerns around the attachment. Attachment 1, page 10 there, and the projects there that have a huge capital ask, and having and just diluting that further when we're trying to get significant funds for indoor sports, Windy Hill upgrade, and Airport West Tennis Pavilion and so forth. So it's important that we don't dilute those. I think also picking up on some of the points that were made around engagement that's happened with Niddrie Library. Just also, we had the activity centre work that's happened. Councillor Cosgrove mentioned the tram upgrades there. The streetscape works have taken place there. And I think it would be prudent not to risk work being done and then rework having to be done as circumstances have changed there. Thank you,
Your
Mayor.
time has expired. Thank you. All councillors having spoken on the amendment and the right of reply having been exercised, we're now going to vote on the amendment. There was a request made to split this vote. Was that right, Councillor Samantha Byrne? I'm just going to think about that just for one moment. Can I just clarify, Councillor Samantha Byrne, was your request to split a vote on the change to point B and a vote on the change to point C? That's my understanding. Look, I think because point C refers to point B, I think there's a difficulty in uncoupling those, and so we'll just move the amendment as the one. I think it's a difficult one, but I think there's some contingency there. So I will put the amendment in its entirety to the vote. So all those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hands.
Sorry, Mayor, can I ask for clarification, please?
Our governance rules do say that once a matter's been put to the vote, we can't ask for points of clarification. So I'm afraid
it's about the vote, though, what we're voting on.
The question is about the vote. We are voting on we're voting on the amendment that's on the screen. So we're voting on those changes that are in red on the screen, and we're voting on them in their entirety. So we're voting.
Mayor,
you can't see the screen.
I can't see the screen, no.
We're just going to pause for a moment here, I think, governance, and just take a 3-minute adjournment to make sure that Councillor Theocharides can see the motion that's being put to the vote.
Yes, I can see it now.
You can see it now?
Yes.
We don't need to adjourn?
No.
Let's proceed then. And so we're voting on the entirety of the amendment there. So I'll just again ask that all those in favour for the amendment, please raise your hand. So we have Councillor Ava Adams, Councillor Phil Byrne, Councillor Fran Cosgriff, Councillor Paula Theocharides, Councillor Rose Isa, and all those against the amendment, Councillor John Barnes, Councillor Samantha Byrne, and Councillor Hamish Jones. So I declare the amendment carried. So we now have the substantive motion as reads on the screen, and hopefully Councillor Theocharides can still see that. The substantive motion was moved by Councillor Samantha Byrne, seconded by Councillor Hamish Jones, and no one has yet, other than the mover and seconder, spoken to the substantive motion. So I will ask whether there are any other councillors who would like to speak to the substantive motion. Councillor Fran Cosgriff, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned earlier, I think this, this item coming to us is kind of long awaited amongst the councils. We've been working on it with officers for almost 12 months, I think. And really what it's about is being as transparent as possible with the community about what we plan to do, what we can afford to do, what we need to do, and then to, very importantly, seek the community's feedback on what they think, what they don't understand, what in terms of kind of competing projects, because there's a lot of competing projects, as we mentioned, what they want to see prioritised most. So for the 4-year project, and Capital Works, I guess everyone around the table knows, but for those watching, maybe it's what we see in the community. It's the roads, it's the bins, it's the parks, it's the kind of things we build, and all our buildings, of course. And over the next 4 years, we'll be investing almost, $149 million in that program. Of that, $97 million will be for renewal, which is just keeping things as they are, serviced so that they're still safe, so that they're accessible for people, there aren't trip hazards and potholes are filled and that kind of thing. And I think roads and drains are our two biggest renewals at the moment. But then in addition to that 97 million, 31 million is then assigned for upgrades, which is, if you think of something like drainage, we can't, as we know from earlier tonight, and we know from events of the last few years, you can't replace like with like. We can't just renew it as it is. We need to upgrade it. We need to replace it and make it a bit bigger and better. So there's really not very much left for all of those new things that we need to do, and all of the expansion, all of the, upgrades can be a bit of expansion, but we're just, as exciting as it is to put this out to people, it is also kind of us saying we don't have endless buckets of money. We've got lots of really important projects that we're going to advocate for, and we're asking for feedback on, and we will keep working as hard as we can to get external funding. So I guess, thanks to everyone around the table and to officers. We have, since last year when we passed our budget and our 10-year plan, we've removed $16 million worth of projects because we had a $16 million deficit we couldn't afford. And so we've worked really hard, and we're now seeking the community's feedback on what's missing, or what they want to see most, or what they think.
Councillor Cosgriff, your time has expired.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to... Do you have a question?
I'd like to withdraw the motion, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Just check governance rules to see if there's the seconder needs to agree to that. I'll just check.
If Councillor Samantha Byrne's wants to withdraw the motion, I'm happy to withdraw my seconding of the motion.
When a motion is put to the vote, it may be withdrawn by the mover and seconder. I'm just going to ask governance. Okay, so that motion is withdrawn. So I will again go back to the fact that we have item 9.1, endorsement of the draft 4-year capital works program 2026 to 27 to 2029 to 30 for community engagement. And councillors, I will call for a motion for this item. Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to the officer's report.
The officer's recommendation. Yep.
Sorry, the officer's recommendation. And that is that Council resolves to 1, endorse the capital works program for 2026-27, 2029-30, brackets attachment 1, for community engagement, and to assist in informing the preparation of the draft 2026-27 budget with the following amendments, notes and requests for further information to Council. Paragraph A, note the intention of Council to allocate funding from the Infrastructure Reserve to fund active transport actions, including those arising from the Integrated Transport Strategy, which is currently under development, and projects related to climate resilience and mitigating impacts of climate change, including drainage improvements. At B, add Queen's Park Pool improvements and Canning Reserve Pavilion to the list of projects being considered for future development, but dependent on external funding on page 10 of attachment 1, and note that Council is continuing to advocate for external funding for projects. Paragraph C, given the number of projects Council is currently trying to progress in point B above, reconsider the timing of planning for the community hub in Niddrie and refer this to discussions on the draft 2026-27 plan. Draft 2026-27 budget. Paragraph D, for the purposes of consistency, oversight and accountability, continue the practice of including the planning and feasibility funding in the Capital Works program. Paragraph E, note Council's intention to fund actions arising from the play and recreation strategy and the streetscaping program currently under development as Council plan initiatives, and request further information from the CEO about funding options, brackets such as existing reserves, for investment into open space without master plans, streetscapes, open space with existing master plans, brackets including for Cliff Ellison Reserve, Montgomery Park and FJ Davies Reserve, and planning for waterways, corridors, and paragraph F, request further information from the CEO with respect to the specific projects in the tennis facilities program. At 2, invite submissions in accordance with Council's community engagement policy from the 2nd of February until 5 p.m. 2nd of March 2026. 3, hear any submissions received on the draft Capital Works Program 2026-27 to 2029-30 on Thursday the 19th of March 2026, commencing at 6 p.m. And at 4, allow for amendments to the Mayor's introduction and minor editing, brackets non-material changes to the draft Capital Works Program 2026-27 to 2029-30 prior to it being released for public inspection. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Philbin. Before I ask for a seconder, I'll just note that I didn't hear the word draft in point 1. So can I just clarify that your intention was to endorse the draft Capital Works program?
Correct, Mayor. Endorse the draft Capital Works program for 2026-27 to 2029-30.
And can I also just clarify that in point E, was it your intention to I didn't hear the word annual initiatives, so was it your intention to move development as council plan annual initiatives?
Correct. Currently under development as council annual initiatives.
Were there any other queries from governance? Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Theocharides, thank you. Councillor Philburn, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mayor. I think we've adequately covered the agenda item.
Councillor Theocharides, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry about my daughter in the bit of background. Yes, I am pleased to second Councillor Philburn's motion. I support it because it strikes the right balance between acknowledging the very real financial constraints that Council is operating under and ensuring we have a sound, transparent framework to guide decisions over the next 4 years. In particular, I support the clear recognition of the infrastructure reserve as a mechanism to fund active transport, climate resilience and drainage related projects. They are municipality-wide priorities that require flexibility and long-term planning, and it's important that Council is explicit about how and when reserves may be used. I also strongly support the continuation of planning and feasibility funding within the Capital Works program. Good planning is not an optional extra, and it's what allows Council to be grant ready to respond to community needs and to make responsible decisions about timing and sequencing. The requests for further information from the CEO are another strength of this motion. They improve accountability and ensure that adopted strategies, including those relating to open space, streetscapes, waterways, corridors and tennis facilities, are translated into clear deliverable programs rather than remaining aspirational. And importantly, the motion keeps the door open, it invites community submissions, it allows Council to hear directly from residents, it preserves our ability to respond to that feedback through the draft budget process before final decisions are made. And for those reasons, I'm comfortable seconding this motion and supporting it as a strong, balanced way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Theocharides. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I will. Unfortunately, I won't be supporting this motion today. I'd like to thank, as I did before, the office for all the work that went into...
Sorry, Councillor Samantha Byrne, I'm so sorry. The clock hasn't started. I'm just wondering if that could start. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
That went into putting forward the office's recommendation, considerable. And so me voting against it is hopefully not taken as any reflection on that, because I do think that it spent a lot of time, and also as mentioned before, there's things that you sort of like and things that you don't like, but as a group of 9 very opinionated and community loving people, you sort of have to land somewhere sometimes. But when I look at this amendment and I go through under point 1 and the specific points, we've got A, which is I suppose framed in the positive in regards to active transport and infrastructure reserve. B, which is a positive of adding Queen's Park Pool improvements and Canning Reserve. We've got C, which I would say is a negative in regards to removing the timing of the Nidri Library Community Hub. D, which I suppose is a neutral point in regards to staying the planning and feasibility status quo. E is a positive, looking at how to fund play and recreation, and F as a positive in regards to more details in regards to the tennis facilities program. So the one thing in this point A that is on the negative is in regards to libraries, is in regards to our Nidri Hub and Nidri Library, and I can't support this. I think we spend so much time looking at sporting stuff in Moonee Valley, and I love sport. Please don't get me wrong. Like, you know that, like, I have a history of backing sport. I think it's great, but you know, we finally get a chance to fund. Or not, you know, and I acknowledge that, you know, we're still planning on doing it, but the one negative in regards to delaying a hub, a library, the one thing, it's a library, guys. Like, I don't know why we do it. It's not the officer's recommendation. We do not need point C in there. I'm not going to move an amendment because we've already been down that path, but I cannot support that. It's not, even though the major impact of it may not be catastrophic, because we're still going to do it, but I haven't heard an argument that I agree with as to why we actually need to and why we should. I love our libraries, and you know, I've spoken on it before, but for the one negative thing in that, and when I say negative, I hope people understand how I'm phrasing that. I think that the Nidri Library should be an extremely high priority of this council, and it shouldn't be delayed. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Ava Adams, would you like to whisper to the motion?
Yes, sorry, I'm going to have to whisper. Thanks, Mayor. One of the key, sorry, it's getting worse.
We can hear you.
One of the key things Council identified at the beginning of this term was to establish a 4-year capital works program that is responsible, affordable, financially sustainable, and most importantly, deliverable. Having a clear 4-year outlook also provides our officers with greater certainty and efficiency, which is critical at an operational level when it comes to planning and delivery. There are significant pressures on our capital program. Our community's infrastructure needs are extensive, and everyone in this chamber would love nothing more than to deliver on every single project put forward. Over the past 8 months, however, we have worked through some genuinely difficult challenges and decisions, and I'm really proud that we are now in a position to present this draft program to the community for feedback. One thing to note is that although there is a rates funding deficit of $395,000 over the 4 years, the rolling program will be reviewed and adjusted annually in accordance with our usual budget process to ensure a balanced budget is proposed each year. Council is responsible for managing billions of dollars worth of assets and infrastructure, all of which require ongoing maintenance and renewal. So while this draft 4-year capital works program proposes $148.8 million in projects, which sounds substantial, it's important to note that that $97 million of that, as Councillor Cosgrove said, is dedicated to asset renewals. So that leaves limited capacity for new projects over the next 4 years. With rate capping, the cost of borrowings, prioritisation of the renewal of essential assets and other pressures, it's important also to understand the parameters we are working within to remain financially viable. The reality is that we simply cannot do everything at once. The draft capital works program will be open for community consultation from the 2nd of February to the 2nd of March 2026. Could I have another minute, please, Mayor?
Keep going.
This is an important opportunity for our community to review the program and provide feedback, whether through formal submissions or general comments. Just quickly, the submissions received from last year's budget process were carefully revisited to help inform this program. While we have sought to include as many priorities as possible through the council plan in this 4-year capital works process, submitters from last year are very welcome to resubmit if they feel their concerns have not been adequately addressed, or if they wish to continue advocating for particular projects. I look forward to also listening to members of our community who will present to councillors at the public hearing of submissions on the 19th of March. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Councillor John Barnes.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but if something costs $1 million today, it'll be $2 million next year, $5 million a year after, and $10 million in 4 years' time. And we'll be talking about this in 4 years' time about will we, won't we, it'll be put aside, budgeted for. It's only going to get higher. Everything goes higher, and if we don't start to build something soon, we won't have enough money to do anything. So eventually we're going to have to bite the bullet. And what costs, as I said, $1 million now will be $10 million in 5 years. So eventually we're going to have to bite the bullet. A bit like the state and federal government when they build roads and stuff, it just has to be done. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Cosgriff.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up on a point that was made about point C and the amendment that I think from my perspective mischaracterises the point, which is to reconsider the timing for the planning of the Nidri hub. We're not pushing out the building of that hub. It's clear in this document, in the officer's recommendation, that we have no other money to give to that hub. Reconsider isn't to change it, it'll stay in there. For now, I'm not going out to community, but I just think that maybe we'd be better off planning it a bit further down the track, closer to when we might have money to build it, which we don't. And I appreciate other points made about if we don't build it something now, it'll cost more later. But I think what this document is really trying to set out for our community is that we have lots and lots. We have lots that we just need to upkeep. We have lots that we ideally need to build and expand for our community. And we have not lots of money. We have not enough money to do most of that. Now, that's not true. We can do all the upkeep. It's just the building of the new things we don't have the money for most of them. But we've put it all in this document, and I just really wanted to stress, I suppose, that this is the draft plan for capital works for the next 4 years. Officers have put it together and made it neat and tidy. The kind of this alternative motion was to try to add in all the bits, which Councillor Adams said quietly as well, that we wanted to make sure that things that came to us in last year's budget that we said we would try to work into the capital works that haven't made it in, that we're bringing them up again, and we're going back out to community and saying, this is all of it. You've got these are the parameters of the money that we do have and the money that we wish we have, and we'll ask other people for, but we can't bank on. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we so value the community feedback. This whole exercise is about us being as engaged with the community, Moonee Valley community, as we can be for what we do with our limited financial resources with a very demanding capital works just renewal program, really. The other thing was on the borrowings. We do have some borrowings over the next 4 years that we could potentially spend. There's so much information in this document, but I just wanted our Chief Financial Officer has made it very clear that for every $1 million we borrow, we of course have to pay that back with interest. That's not to say that we won't be borrowing, but we can't borrow enough money for all of these projects, and anything we do borrow, of course, we pay back later. So we just need to, again, we're asking for your feedback.
Your time has expired.
30 seconds, Mayor.
Have I given you an extension already? Thanks.
So we're seeking your input on what to prioritise with our limited resources, our limited borrowings. And if you have any questions, reach out to your councillor or to council officers, because that's what this whole exercise is for, and we'll be adopting it with our budget at the end of June, or before then, but for the end of June. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgriff. Councillor Jones, I think you haven't spoken to the substantive.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't be supporting the substantive motion as it's currently presented. mainly because of point C. I think that point D clearly points out the need for planning and feasibility funding in the Capital Works program. I think we need to do planning and feasibility work at the Niddrie Library in order to be able to ask for funding, as we have outlined in page 10 of the report we are putting out for community feedback, and I don't want to see that delayed. Leaving that there, I would like to encourage the community that this is a draft program for community engagement. It's not the final approval, it's not the final budget, so I'd like to see the community's feedback on the Niddrie Library and what they think about whether it should be funded or not, as well as everything else that's in the program, acknowledging that we do have to renew a lot of existing assets first before we can build new things sometimes, but I'm waiting for community feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, and I think that means that every councillor has spoken to the substantive. There was some opposition expressed, so Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to exercise a right of reply?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would. We've got really close on $148 million or whatever the number was that quoted a little while ago. And we're down to a point where we're arguing about where things go in a consultation report that have absolutely no money attached to them. So that's the first thing I'd say in reply. And I think it's important to look at some of the other things around how, and the amendment looks to start to get our thinking into being able to sustainably fund things that we've flagged in the council plan through way of strategies and so forth. So that's an important thing to make. And we're not amending the council plan. We're not taking this bit out of the council plan that refers to getting on with Niddrie Library. We're really looking here at just potentially delaying our discussion about whether we delay the moving our discussion on if we end up delaying the planning for a project that we don't have any funds from. Again, like broken record, it's not the merits of the need. This is not a vote for the future of libraries or not. We know that we spend $1 and we get 6 out. We all love libraries. How big is it going to be? It's going to be 8, 10, 12 stories. Who do we partner with? Where's the money coming from? Do we need to go back out and consult the community in a bit more detail? There's still a lot of questions. As Councillor Barnes said, I really want to crack on with things too, but where's the money coming from? We borrow $1 million, we pay $1.47 $1 million back.
Your time has expired, Councillor
Things need to be
Byrne.
repaid. Thank you, Mayor.
I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is Councillor Ava Adams, Councillor Phil Byrne, Councillor Fran Cosgriff, Councillor Paula Theocharides and Councillor Rose Isa. All those against? Councillor John Barnes, Councillor Samantha Byrne, Councillor Hamish Jones. I declare that motion carried. Thanks. We now move to 9.2, adoption of the Child Safety and Wellbeing Policy. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Fran Cosgriff?
I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hamish Jones, thank you. Councillor Fran Cosgriff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, so just briefly, Moonee Valley is very proudly a child-safe organisation, and this policy is really a way of publicly outlining what that means. It's kind of formalising processes in a document that we've had internally previously, and I'm very glad to have it come to council and to be available for the public. It as I guess the closest level of government to the people, councillors, council staff have lots of direct contact with the community, including contact with the youngest members of our community, and so we're really well placed to be able to, I guess, help where we can and keep an eye out for them and make sure we all know what to be looking out for, and that no kid who's in trouble or anything else goes unnoticed. So this kind of outlines the policies that we have as an organisation for that, what we do in terms of recruitment and training and reporting concerns and following up on those. And I'm very happy to commend the policy to my colleagues and for it to be, elevated to a public document. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cosgrove. Councillor Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, all organisations identified in Schedule, as it says in the report, all organisations identified in Schedule 1 of the Child Wellbeing and Safety Act 2005, which includes Moonee Valley City Council, are required to comply with 11 child safe standards, one of which is the development of a policy similar to the Child Safety and Wellbeing Policy we are, I assume we will be adopting this evening. I can't presuppose the vote. But I think it's more than that. I think child safety isn't something that's optional. It's a core responsibility of council. It's a core responsibility for us to lead the way in our local community, making sure we are looking after our one people. It brings us into compliance through strengthening reporting processes and making them accessible. We did go out for community feedback, which was generally supportive, with only minor changes suggested and needed. And I strongly support us adopting this policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case, I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Which brings us to 9.3 on the agenda, Audit and Risk Committee, minutes of the 1st of December 2025 meeting, biannual report and performance assessment. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Jones?
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cosgrove? Councillor Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will just briefly. I think audit and risk committees go to the heart of good governance, and as this report shows, I think that our Audit and Risk Committee, of which I am one of the councillor members, has been performing and meeting its obligations. There were surveys and assessment done of members that show a high level of satisfaction with how the committee is working and the things that are being achieved. I think it provides strong oversight of financial reporting, but also risk management of all the things we deal with as a council. And I think the minutes accurately reflect the meeting, given that I was at the meeting, so I'm happy to move them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Cosgrove, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? In which case, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. So I declare that motion carried unanimously. Just making sure I follow the script. That brings us to notices of motion. Councillors, item 10 on the agenda is notices of motion, and we have none listed on tonight's agenda, so we'll move to item 11. Item 11 is urgent business. Councillors, we don't have any urgent business that was lodged by the appropriate time. Do we have any urgent business, councillors? No? Good. We will then move to confidential items. We have no confidential items listed on the agenda this evening, and that brings us to the close of the meeting. So that concludes the business on tonight's agenda. Thank you for joining us tonight. The next council meeting will be held on Tuesday the 24th of February 2026, and I declare this meeting closed at 8:27 p.m. Thank you.